All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is called a stash house case. A lot of you won't know that this even exists. Now, this is what has happened. There was one specific DEA agent that created this fictional dilemma. So this agent, what he did was that he decided some 20, I think 23 to 25 years ago, he's been doing it that long, yes. He decided that what he was going to do is he was going to pretend to be a disgruntled drug stash house worker. And he was going to go and try to recruit some folks in the neighborhood that he went to rob this fictional stash house by telling them that, hey, you know, these people did not treat me right, they did not give me enough money, this, that, and the other, and there's only 2 people guarding this house, and it has X amount of cocaine in it. Now, the amount of cocaine changed for the different cases. There are tons of cases that he's done this in throughout the country, and for the most part, they've been federal cases. All right, so what's happening is that, let's just say if he believes that 50 kilos is the amount that he needs to tell you about, to say that it's in this house in order to get you, you know, sufficiently, you know, ready to actually do this or plan this robbery of a place that doesn't exist, of drugs that do not exist. That's what he says. If he believes that 20 is enough, he'll say 20. However, normally the amounts are higher. So what he does is he'll get people who, you know, have felonies. Not all, but most of them will already have a felony, and most of them have never ever done anything like this. Although they're supposed to get people who have done these type of robberies before, the amount of people who've actually robbed a stash house and lived, it's not very big. So what's happening is that he'll get these, you know, guys, and they've done research on him, and 95, I believe, percent have been black and brown people who have gotten charged with this. So what he does is that over a short amount of time, he'll first start by trying to buy drugs off of them. Not all of them, but at least one of them. And he'll get that person to recruit other people, tell them about this stash house where they can get all these drugs and then they can eventually sell them and make a ton of money off of it. All right? Again, the important thing is that these drugs don't exist. The stash house doesn't exist. Okay? So he'll get them to recruit other people. And they'll end up, you know, 3, 4, 5. He'll say that we need, you know, X amount of people, at least 4 people, you know, a couple people to go in, somebody to watch the door, somebody to drive. So therefore, he'll have, you know, X amount of people, you know, caught up in this case. And then he'll also, outside of trying to buy drugs, he'll try to buy some guns off of at least one of them. All right? And he'll tell them, oh, you guys need to have guns. So then they will set this up, and then they will have guns, and they'll drive, and they'll be getting ready to rob a place that doesn't exist. And then all of a sudden, when they're all in the car with guns, law enforcement will swoop in and arrest them. Now, here's the thing. Not only are they charged as felons in possession of guns, they are charged with conspiracy to possess and distribute whatever amount of drugs he told them was supposed to be in this imaginary stash house. So, can you imagine what that means? Because the way it works in the federal system is that you end up being charged, and your guidelines are based upon the amount of drugs that you were dealing with. What ends up happening is that you end up looking at least a 15-year minimum mandatory. And many of these guys have gotten sentenced to 20 years and quite a few life for attempting to rob a place that did not exist, of drugs that did not exist. So now what you have is all these black and brown people going to jail for this significant amount of time because they were set up in this way. Now, some of you will believe that, well, you know, they should have never been criminals. One problem is that 95% of the folks are black and brown. No one can justify that. And it doesn't mean that for sure we know based upon facts, based upon research, based upon the actual figures of those who actually do drugs and those who sell drugs, that 95% of the folks, not even close, are black and brown people that do that. Not even close. And then would you want to be put in prison for that amount of time for drugs that didn't exist, and for a place that didn't exist, for a job that you could not do no matter what? Just want you to think about that. If you believe it's fair, you can comment. If you don't believe it's fair, you can comment as well. Feel free to get mad about it. Feel free to, believe that it is justice. However, you just need to think about it. And I believe that when you guys discuss this, people will change their minds as to what they think. And at the very least, you will know that our government and law enforcement is doing this to people.